My name's Ken King. I'm a coach, a learning and performance consultant, and the founder and owner of the Boost Institute. This is Real Learning with Real People. These conversations are with real people. They're unscripted and they're designed to pull tidbits of information from people who are grinding right now to get the most out of their lives. With minimum amounts of editing and maximum authenticity, we strive to provide lessons that anybody will find effective, relatable, and entertaining. We seek to have guests that provide learning based on their life experiences. Some are chosen because of their experiences as high performers in sport, business, or education, whereas others have been chosen because they have meaningful lessons to teach, and I want to make sure they have the platform to share it with the world. The language in the videos can sometimes be mature, as I'm always encouraging my guests to just be themselves. This is all part of making sure that we do our best to give you content that is both authentic and effective, and that you feel like you can utilize the real learning in order to connect with these real people. Today, Trevor Ragan is on the show, and I've been looking forward to this one because Trevor is excellent at what he does, real as they come, and also he's a friend. Trevor has created Train Ugly and Learner Lab, and if you haven't seen his stuff yet, then you need to pause this and go look them up now. You won't regret it. You'll be downloading things, saving things, screenshotting things. Totally worth it. He is one of the best for taking valuable and complex content and really helping to mold it and teach it in a way that increases the depth and breadth of its impact. He's also created some really solid content, like his Jungle Tiger concept of learning, and that's a Train Ugly original, a true classic, and something that can make a big impact, especially in the lives of young people, because of the way it really hits home and makes it digestible for them. He's an experienced podcast host and guest. He has his own show called Learner Lab. Again, I would definitely look it up. So in this chat, we dive into a lot of the things that he doesn't get to talk about on shows in a relaxed and entertaining, real learning, real people way. We have a lot of fun in this chat, starting right from the intro, and I'm honored to connect you with Trevor. Here we go. I've gotten to the point where I literally just I make fun of the fact that the intro is the most scripted part of the thing. So
when in doubt, just call out the awkwardness of a situation and you're great.
Yeah, I've created enough awkward situations in my life and have just highlighted them on my own to be pretty well practiced in that.
There you go.
So we might as well just flow off that as our as our formal intro.
Perfect.
I think that's pretty good for you and I. Hey, Trevor, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
There we go. I'm going to leave that first part in, I think.
Yeah, you have to. It's a keeper.
I'm excited. Like I was just saying to you before I hit record here, I was excited to have you on because I feel like we have a pretty good knowledge of each other. And with that, I think we have an opportunity to go deep on some of the stuff that you've been able to pick up. And what I'm really hoping too is maybe talk about some stuff that's gotten to you where you're at today without or not without, but with pulling on some of the stuff that you put in your show.
Yep.
Just because I really do think that you talk to so many people like I do about the things that they've created and the awesome stuff that they've done, and you're doing your own awesome stuff, but not a lot of people know much about you and your background because you're not a guy who's going to talk a lot about yourself. So I'd like to start by going deep on that and hearing about family life growing up. Sure. Siblings, parents.
Nice.
And I'm not going to let you leave out your basketball career. So
cool. This is good. This is a different, I've been doing a lot of these in the last couple of weeks and this will be different. So I'm ready.
Cool. So yeah, tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up as a kid.
I grew up in the middle of Wyoming. So the least populated state in the US, but the 5th largest for land area. So not much going on, lots of open space, which is cool. It was awesome. Growing up, both my parents were coaches. So sports was a huge part of life. Just always on the road, watching their teams compete. And so from the age of 3, my heroes in life were my parents, they're high school players. And I was thought they were the coolest people. I cared more about them than Michael Jordan because I saw them every day. And it was my dream to be like them. And so my unfair advantage growing up was I grew up in a gym, grew up around great high school athletes, and just got to see it, how cool it is to be a part of a team. And so that was like my goal. It's just like, I want to do, I can't wait to do that. Um, and I guess one advantage of growing up in Wyoming is it's so small. You have so many like athletic opportunities. So like in sixth grade, I got to in the summers play like pick up basketball and go to some summer camps with the high school team, like just because they don't have very many people. So,
Yeah.
and I was pretty good, but it was just like unfair experiences that I was like gathering because both my parents were coaches. And so I think, and you know this, it's like sports can be such a fantastic arena that can teach you so much, or it could be pretty crappy, depending on like the team you're on, the people leading those teams, the coaches. And I like hit the lotto from age 3 all the way through high school. Just fantastic experience with sports. So I think I owe a lot of that to my parents for sure. So that was like the best part of growing up in such a small place.
Yeah, and my first time in Wyoming was coming down to see you 2 years
Yeah.
ago, and it was enlightening.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Let's go just a little bit deeper on it. And what about siblings? You have siblings?
Yep. I have a younger brother. He is the women's volleyball coach at Grinnell College, and he's 2 years younger than me. So him and I from the start have been working on this stuff together,
Mhm.
and it's cool to watch his team. He got the head job 3 seasons ago, and they're just killing it. Like every season has been the best in school history. We've been doing a lot of work with his team, and it's just so fun to watch him dig in and see how some of the stuff we learn about is like evolving there. And then I have little sisters that are 2 years younger than him. One is a high school basketball coach and teacher, and then the other lives in Boston and works for a consulting company. And so we all like spread out all over the country, but we're super tight, and we all had that like sports background that sort of uh, brought us together growing up. And then all of us are kind of doing different stuff now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Is it fair to say that leadership or some kind of teaching or leading is a thread through the family?
For sure. So I think when both your parents do something and that's all you know for the first 18 years of your life, like I, until like my senior year of college, was on that path. I was like, yep, gonna be a teacher, gonna be a coach. Basically, I'm going to be a teacher so I can be a coach type of deal.
Yeah,
Like I didn't care about teaching. It's just like I just want to be a high school basketball
yeah,
coach
been
really
there.
bad. Um, and so that was the plan. And then I kind of got on a different path. But I would say that that's a pattern and a thread of just finding great groups and being involved. Like there's some magic to that, and you're lucky when you can find it. And I think all of us have gravitated towards that because of the athletic background.
Totally. And so here's a question that's hard for some people, and other people have it locked and loaded. If you had to describe dad with a word, what would it be?
Oh, it would be like one word would just be like either caring or sacrifice. Like he was incredible. He was like uh we didn't like we were like probably middle of the class growing up, not too much money. And part of my like story, and we'll get into it in a bit, is I got accepted into Duke, which was like my dream, and that's not a cheap school. I
Hmm.
had quite a bit of financial aid, but it was still going to be a pretty big bill. And like when I first was accepted, I literally remember thinking like, "Oh, that's cool, but there's no way we could afford that." And that was before I knew about financial aid and stuff. But as soon as like I was reading the email and he's like, "I'll go work at like a gas station if I have to, like you're gonna go." And it was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Luckily he didn't have to do that. But it was like a no brainer to him, where between my ears it was like, oh, there's no way I could go here. So that was pretty wild. It's like not normal, and super privileged to have someone like that on your team.
Yeah, and I'm gonna circle back to that phrase "not normal" in a minute. But what about mom? What in a word?
Oh, she's She is an absolute legend. So that's a few words. So
Hyphenated.
yeah, the cool, like her and I kind of butted heads growing up and through high school. She was pretty tough on me. And now we're so close. It's like she's the one who, before I even got into this, was giving me book. She's the one that gave me Carol Dweck's book. I didn't even know who Carol Dweck was, but my mom is like a hungry learner, and she was reading and like building this stuff. She was a PE teacher at the time. And so it's so fun now. Our relationship is like, when I'm learning something new, or when I'm like crafting a new podcast or new article, new video, she's the one I reach out to and like bounce the ideas around. It's like such a cool, one, I'm lucky to have even someone like that. And then two, for it to be your mom is like awesome. And so she's a legend.
That's, I have yet to have somebody use the word legend for their parent. There's been implication, but that's honestly, for lack of a better term, it's badass to grow up with people who are your parents, where they're providing you with just that push, but also that support.
Dude, like there are moments where I just look back now, and maybe even at the time didn't appreciate it, to where like, okay, one was, we're going to find a way to help you chase your dreams, go to Duke. Then I go to Duke, and my senior year, call them like, yeah, you know how I've been majoring in education? I'm not going to use that at all. I have this business idea that I'm going to start with my friends. And they're like, cool, do it. And then after 2 years of that, it's like, hey, this kind of sucks actually, kind of out of money, but I'm going to move to Australia with my best friend and see if we can get a job there. Cool, do it. Hey, it's 2 years after Australia. Can I come live in your basement, Mom? I have a business I want to start, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Yep, cool, do it. It's like, wow, like again, not normal for them to be that supportive, where I didn't feel like I had to like live up to expectations or get on a set path. They were supporting the leaps, which super helpful to have that in your corner as well.
Totally. And I'm so glad you plugged the word dreams, because like I said to you before we came on, I was excited in a way that we could really just have a back and forth where I didn't have to do a lot of research on your stuff, because I've kind of been along for the ride from a distance, watching and paying attention and that kind of thing for a long time. But the one thing I did write down was Trevor Ragan, Dream Chaser. And let me quantify that for a second, because I think that you've had multiple dreams, gone all in, starting maybe with like hoop dreams at one point for sure, gone all in, and then shifted your dream, and then just gone all in on that.
Yeah.
And because of those qualities that your parents have, it seems to me like as the dream has shifted, the passion and the desire to chase it never really went down. It just, the compass just changed direction.
Yeah, it would, man, because like this conversation is awesome already, because it's stuff that we should probably think about more and acknowledge more. It's just like super lucky, just hit the parent lottery. And then even like the friends that I met at school, like my best friend in the world, his name is Sean, and we were roommates together for 4 years, and then like worked on stuff for 3 years after. So like we basically lived together for 7 years. It's like him and I, first we bonded over basketball. That's why we went to Duke. But then like we just like learned so much about the world through just trying to be scrappy and do our own stuff, that it's like I fell into a lot of the principles I know to be true now from the research, but like we kind of fell into them on our own. It's like with the business we started together out of college, like we had no business doing it, and we like achieved a level of success that I legit couldn't even fathom. And it was just like, oh shit, like the lesson looking back that I learned is, if I could do this, I'm pretty sure I could pull other things off as well. And so you could argue that was like a strong piece of what we would call now a growth mindset. It's like, I believe in my capacity to learn, and I believe in my capacity to figure stuff out. And like that was like stamped in our minds. And there was like 3 of us in this group that did all this stuff, and each one of us now is doing amazing stuff that we never thought possible, and it's a direct outcome of those little businesses we were trying to start right out of college, where we like got that swag of like, we're learners. It's just like, we don't know much, but we can learn it quickly and figure it out, and we're capable of that. Like, that was huge, and that shaped all of our lives.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good indicator too of I think what we kind of see in certain young athletes, young students, and that kind of thing. Very rarely do we see long-term success. This is both anecdotal and research based.
Mm-hmm.
In the kids who are seeing high amounts of success with low amount of work at a
Yep.
young age, right?
Yep.
Just the
Yep.
kids that are really seeing that early
Mm-hmm.
success, and oftentimes they get that label of being the smart kid, being the athletic kid, that kind of thing, and then they hit a wall.
Yep.
Whereas it seems to me, and I think we can probably thread through basketball for this.
Mm-hmm.
You had to work for a lot of stuff, figure a lot of stuff out, and then you'd see some success in that area. And I do just want to make sure that I highlight for a second, because I know you're not going to, that you were really good at basketball.
I was really good for being a 5'9" kid from Wyoming.
because you went and again in my notes I wrote Duke over everything, because you chose the much harder path basketball wise, whereas you like there were other routes for you basketball wise that would have been easy. You could have been in the center of attention, the star, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the route you chose.
Yeah. And like, I think it sounds kind of noble, and maybe part of it was, and then probably a lot of it was ego too. It's just like, I kind of probably thought I did get good at basketball, and my relationship with basketball is amazing. Nothing makes me happier than playing basketball. Like I never lost that. And it was a joy practicing as much as I did. And then like, for some reason, I realized when I was like in high school that it would be so dope to just be on the Duke team, and that feeling for me as an individual, but how that would be perceived on the outside. I like weighed that against like, versus if I was the star of some school that no one's ever heard of. Like, for some reason, probably some ego and some pretty deep down cool stuff, I chose like Duke. I don't know if it was for the challenge. I just thought it was like, that'd be the ultimate. I know I'll never get like substantial playing time, but I just want to run out of the tunnel. Like, that was like what I was picturing. Yeah. It was like Rudy. Like, I wanted to be the Rudy of Duke basketball. Like, that was the goal. And I actually got damn close. Like 80 people tried out. I was like the last one cut. And it's like one of those things, and everyone listening could probably identify these things that we go through, and at the time it's terrible, and we maybe don't even handle it that well, and it hurts really bad. And then you look back and you're like, oh, like that made me grow in ways I didn't even realize. And then that's definitely one of those situations for me. Like, there's no way we're talking right now if I make that team. There's zero way the Learner Lab exists or any of my stuff. Like, that was the turning point. There are many others, but that was the initial seed, was like falling short. And then just like wondering like, damn, what could I have done better? That's why I got into this industry in the first place. So I don't know.
Well, I know that the word that comes to mind in that story from you is perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think that you set yourself up to gain a large amount of perspective based on the situations that you chose to put yourself in. Mm-hmm. And as you shift that perspective now to what you're doing with Learner Lab and what you've done recently, is it, if I say that you train ugly to train ugly, what does that bring up for you?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought these two things up, because there's confusion, and I just figured it out yesterday. So Train Ugly was the original name, original website, and I love it because it's an important piece of the learning equation that sometimes doesn't get enough attention and is misunderstood. That to grow we have to struggle. Now there's ways to struggle and not grow for sure, but it's an essential piece of the learning equation. And so training ugly is a pillar of becoming a better learner. The reason we changed the name to the Learner Lab is because we are a company that's designed to discover the science of learning. Part of the science of learning is training ugly. So it's like, our North Star is learning, and train ugly is a pillar. And there are other things too. And so the problem with the name Train Ugly, it's awesome. I love it. I love it because the first few people I told are like, you can't make a company that's talking about ugly. It's like, oh yeah, we can. Like,
That's exactly
you don't even know. It's like, yep, you don't understand. You're old. As soon as I got that domain, I was like, this is going to crush, because it's like super catchy. It's out of the box. We're zigging when people are zagging. It was everything you want. But it was just kind of limiting to what we're doing now. And so it's still a word and phrase that we use, but it's a piece of a bigger message that we're trying to push. So, but when I think about training ugly, it's like, it's the understanding that to grow, we must struggle, and training ugly is struggling on purpose. It's like, I know the things that help me grow, and I know it doesn't necessarily feel good to do them all the time, but I'm going to do them on purpose and get more of those reps than just like passively waiting for them to happen. That would be what I think about.
Yeah, and that's your business acumen.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's your pathway through business. It's been to get reps of trying different stuff out.
Yeah.
And it not working, or it does work, but you're like, actually there's a little bit more, which comes back to what you said. Like you pull off Train Ugly.
Yeah.
And you have your success. And in the context of what it now is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Train Ugly. Like now that you're looking at it as that component of Learner Lab,
100%.
It's like, yeah, I pulled that off, but it's also made me realize I can pull off something that covers a lot more than just how to learn skills.
Yep. And I think the only way to get there is like, if you think of the evolution of what I'm doing, the original plan was, I'm going to make an awesome website that teaches people to make better basketball drills. And I'm going to make awesome videos about that and teach them how to do that. And then that evolved to like these camps. That's how you and I met, where that was my whole goal in life was, I'm going to make the best 1 week basketball experience you could ever have. And we did that for a couple years. And then it was like, wait, a lot of the stuff we're teaching could help people outside of basketball. And then, so it just kind of evolved through action though. It wasn't, never one time did I sit down on a whiteboard like, all right, here's how we're going to do this and plan it out. So like 95% of my money now in business is done through like providing workshops to awesome groups. Mm-hmm. And if you would have told me that 4 years ago, even like, yeah, that's going to be the main core of your business. One, I wouldn't have believed you. And two, I would have said, I don't even want to do that because I'm super introverted. I don't want to be a public speaker. So like, damn, it's like, what? So like all these plans that I've ever had usually don't end up working out. And so now I've just been chasing these reps and kind of staying true to the core principles we started with. And you know a lot about Seth Godin. Like I've kind of used him as like, I'm just going to believe the things he has to say and share as far as how to structure a business. That's sort of our, those are the core principles. As long as we're aligned with those, who knows where this is going to take us. And that's seemed to work for me.
Yeah. I like too that you bring up Seth, because I have various Seth stuff, as I'm sure you do, just kind of drone about my makeshift home office and the make a ruckus concept that he has. And I like that. I don't know that making a ruckus is his, but that he's really talked about, talks about it a lot in the Alt MBA and stuff like that. That I think has it has been something that you've been not maybe knowingly chasing, but it does seem like you said, you're trying to zig when other people are zagging.
Yeah. It's like the original thing I was following with him was like the idea of building a tribe by being generous and earning trust and attention through sharing. It's like, okay, so that was the start. And then I just kind of found this little space that I love to operate in. Is most people in a particular industry think this, but the science says that. I want to go figure out that science. And like, I'm not going to call them out or anything, but I like to be like, hey, you know how a lot of people think and say this? Well, actually, here's a pile of studies that show there's a better approach. And like, that excites me. And I think when you explain it properly to other people, that's like an interesting angle. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. And I don't always have to go against the grain. There's some stuff that we teach and share that's like pretty well known, that a lot of people agree on, a lot of people talk about, which is great. I just think, and you do a good job of this too, it's just like, if I'm going to say something or write about something, I need to understand like the science underneath it. And I'm going to spend a lot of time digging into that. And so I think that's something I've gotten better at. Maybe at the start, it's just like, oh, this sounds good, so I'm going to say it. And like, I heard someone say this once, so I'm going to say it. Now there's a lot more scrapping backstage that we do before we'll like put our stamp on a concept or share a principle to others. So I think that's important.
Yeah, and you bring up something that I think is really cool about learning, and it's being ruined a little bit, and I'm not going to say by who, but when you work in a field of learning, you live in a world where facts are first.
Yeah.
And the fake news people are the people that are saying that they know how to teach you something well, but they're not coming back to science.
Yeah.
And the interesting part in our world is that you're teaching learning, or you're teaching the best when you're basing that in science, period. And you can't fake it, because the people just don't learn the stuff well.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of approaches that can get some short-term traction. And I think one is just like hype dealing, which is like, I'm just really energetic and really good at speaking, and I can make you feel good. So you like sit there and listen to this, and then you like feel good, and you're like, oh, this is the best. But it's like 2 days later, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed because nothing was taught at all. And so like you just kind of hyped. And maybe there's a time and a place for that. And maybe I was even falling into those traps early on as well. It's like, oh yeah, I can be an energetic speaker and people feel like I'm smart because I'm bringing energy. And so that's a trap that maybe we fall into, but then it's good to recognize that and just be like, no, it's like we always need to side with the science. And that is like a never ending battle. Like, I think we just have to be hungry to dig and learn and talk to people way smarter than us. And then our job, and I wish there was more people doing this, is we're sort of translators and we're dot connectors. It's like the reason people like our message and the reason they respond to our pods and our workshops and videos is because I'm not just going to regurgitate someone's stuff and just put my name on it. It's like, one, we're going to explain it in a way that makes sense to the average person. And two, we're going to provide some context and show how that might connect to other ideas they've heard of. So you're like, oh, not only is this a useful tool, but I actually see how to use it. And I think that angle seems to hit home with people. So I see myself as kind of a translator. I'm trying to dig into this research, give the love to the people doing it, and then connect the dots. Because sometimes, because they're focused on one particular topic, they're not like looking outside in other buckets and other areas of research to show how maybe dots might connect. And so that's kind of where I see myself fitting.
Yeah, and there's definitely, the majority of people don't want to do the deep dive, right? That's why Blinkist and which are like great app, and there's really cool apps where you can, and this new one, Quibi, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Where it's like they've literally created TV shows that are 8-minute episodes. Like that's our world now. It's a whole show in 8 minutes, or it's a whole book. And that stuff's really good, but it is because the majority of people don't want to do the deep dive. They just want to learn. It's not that they're not hungry to learn. Right. It's that the deep dive, they would love it. And maybe it's not even want, but maybe it's time, maybe it's resources, whatever, network, that kind of thing. But if they can't or don't want to do the deep dive, you're a pro at being that translator, that dot connector. You're great at making content digestible
Mm-hmm.
for people, but it doesn't come from a root. And this is something that we push a ton, and we say it outright, and you guys do a really good job pushing it just by how you do your stuff. But just passion is the foundation of learning.
Yeah.
Like if you've got somebody trying to be the translator, the digester, dot connector, who's just kind of like, oh yeah, hey, like here's what's in that book.
Yeah.
Like, and they say it like that, and they deliver it in a way like, and that's something I think where it starts to make a really big difference.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to be chefs. We're going to take a bunch of quality ingredients that we've gathered and make a dish that's fantastic. And the only way to do that is to like experiment with these different ingredients and really get to know them. And then I can create a really good dish. I'm not just like, here's like what I threw together. It's like, no, each one of these took us so much time.
Yeah.
And I think like, again, my unfair advantage was like, because we did those camps back in the day, it was just disgusting amount of reps teaching stuff like this to maybe not the most engaged audience. So it's like, hey, go explain the amygdala to a 7th grader who wants to just be playing basketball, but you need to have this short break. And then because of the nature of the camp, you'd get to do that talk 4 times that day. And then you'd get to give that talk 10 Tuesdays in a row throughout the summer. It's like, guess what? You're going to be pretty good at it by the end. And just getting those reps with younger athletes. That's why now, like I've presented in prisons. I presented with Major League Baseball team, like every audience you can imagine. And still the toughest is like 7th graders. And so like now, an approach that Alex and I use when we're shaping new content for the podcast, but an approach I use for shaping new content for a workshop, I'll make an outline. I'll gather the studies, but then you go practice, you go try to teach that to a 7th grader. And like, if you get it to where they understand it and they're engaged, you got it. It's like, now it's ready. Now it's ready to be turned into a video or something else. So it's like, we're kind of being that chef. It's like, here's our dish. Let's see if a 7th grader can digest it and like it. If they do, it's probably good for other people.
Yeah, and I'm not just trying to boost you, but because I think I don't see myself as a dot connector or translator in the same way. I do that by nature of being a teacher or coach. That's like we all do that. It's part of the job. But it is just part of the job. There are still multiple moments where I'm working with young athletes, young students, or people who are just like so far removed from some of this content, like it's so new to them, that my first reaction is like, yeah, like I can explain this to you, but also if you just YouTube this, learn a lab, this and this, you're gonna watch a very compact video that's gonna give you a massive amount of information in a short amount of time, and then we can take off from there.
Yeah,
right.
That's kind of where I'm learning that moving forward. If we're looking like 2 to 3 years from now, that's where I see myself fitting. I used to think like I could go in and give a workshop and everyone that watched the workshop could go teach it to someone else. And it's like, maybe that's true. But I see myself as now moving to providing tools to people like you. So it's like, hey, I'm really good at producing the videos and explaining this in a approachable way, but you are 1,000 times better at connecting it with your people and the relationships you built with them. You know them. So like, let's tag team this. Like, let's work together. It's like, you show them my video, but then you do the hard, but most important part of like the discussions, the reflections, like the stuff like that. And so rather than our content being everything, I see it as a tool that leaders could use to help the learners around them. And I think if we can focus on building stuff like that, it could be pretty useful.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a really interesting thing for me, and we both believe in this, and we've talked about it in the past, and that's providing free content, and making things that are accessible to large groups of people. And I know we've both had conversations in the past with each other and with others where it's like there's a push to monetize your stuff, like monetize it. And so why does that not jive with your belief of how learning should go? Because I know why it is for me, and I think many of the people listening appreciate anytime they can get free stuff. But why?
Okay. I think there's a few ways to look at it. One is like, I think some of this stuff is so valuable. I never want money to get in the way of someone learning it. Like, I never want to price a group out. It's like, yeah, we charge for our workshops for sure. And if someone can't afford that, we're probably going to do it for whatever price they want to. Yeah. And so like, that's kind of a different side of it. But as far as the content, like, this is another Seth Godin thing that I just believed in early, which is like, the way this, I shouldn't even say his name because this is Trevor's interpretation. It's like, if a friend that I trust makes something or gives me a recommendation, I'm always gonna like trust them and listen and try the thing out. So then my logic was like, how could I make a lot of friends that trust me? It's like, not by nickel and diming them and like, I made a video and you have to pay 99 cents to watch it. It's not how you make friends. You make friends by being generous and sharing and like, hey, I made this, it's free. I made this, it's free. And so that's the Seth Godin idea of like, I'm being generous and I'm sharing because I'm building trust and attention. And a group of people that can give you trust and attention, that will pay for itself 20 times over some way, somehow. That will happen. But and I've just like done that from the start. And the funny thing is, a lot of people, I mean, most of the people that reach out to me have questions about the science of learning, but others are like, I want to be just like you. I want to start a business. And I'm like, all right, these are the things that I think. And then they'll launch a website and then they're charging subscription from the start. It's like, dude, you're not going to build a tribe that way. Like, you're just not. I don't care how good your stuff is. It just, I don't know why, but it's just not going to work. And so be generous, overshare. Man, we've been sharing through videos for 6 years now and writing articles and producing podcasts. Never one time, and I've done probably 500 workshops, never once has someone been like, that's just like your video, or we already watched your video. It's like, but that almost everyone, when I was coming up with my business model that I asked for feedback on, is like, oh, you shouldn't provide all these videos because like, then people won't need to pay you. It's like, it's literally been the opposite. Like people want you to come in because they like the videos. So I don't know.
Yeah. And that's an interesting piece. And I think it goes back to everything that you've already talked about, where who you surrounded yourself with have made a difference. Because if you surround yourself with the wrong people and they're like, yeah, you got to make money on this shit, then it looks very different. And my business pathway, I had people in one scenario where it was that opposite direction, where it's just like monetize. If you value it high, they will value it high. And it wasn't like moral or intellectual value. It was like, if you price this clinic at $3,000 for a weekend, people are going to be like, wow, that must be really good. Not true.
Yeah.
That's not the truth. And maybe it is true if you're talking to the right people that have money to burn, but they take it once and it's so much more likely that they're going to be like, oh, that was really expensive, whether it was good or not.
Right. And the alternative is just like, if you're building up trust and attention by writing, producing videos, podcasts, interviews, and then sometime down the road, you're like, I have a workshop and this is what I think it costs. They're probably going to find value in it because I've earned your trust versus monetizing first. So there's nothing wrong with monetizing in different ways when the time is right, and who knows what the right price should be. But I feel like if you've earned it, then you can make that ask versus making the ask out of the gate. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Totally. And honestly, I'm seeing that right now. Like we're much newer to the podcast game than you are. And even as a business, we're newer than you are, but we've seen almost 3 times the increase in engagements being requested by people in 4 or 5 episodes of this podcast
Yeah.
from before that. And it's just
Yeah.
because, oh, that's what Ken looks like on YouTube, or this is what his
Yeah.
voice sounds like, or this is what he's into. Now all of a sudden
Yeah.
when I see his stuff,
Yeah.
and because of things right now, like we're not booking it right now, but
Yeah.
it's funny that it's just kind of like trust in business is maybe one of the most undervalued concepts in my opinion.
Yep.
And especially like looking somebody in the eye, trust that that person has your best interests at heart.
Yep.
Whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person or
Yep.
whatever. And in my interactions up to this point, my experience has really been that it's really, really easy to find a surface level of trust,
Mm-hmm.
or trust with a wide breadth, where you can make a group of people think they trust you for a short amount of time.
Yep.
But then when we talk about that depth of trust, where it's like I really like the idea of and I know this general concept's been in your head before, where it's just like, I want somebody to be sitting there and be like, I'm kind of bored, like
Yeah.
I kind of want to learn something. Well, maybe I'll turn on this show.
Yep.
Right. Like maybe I'm going to listen to this podcast today and I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
something about it. And I want that depth of trust where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, when I have my time, which is really the only finite thing that humans have,
Mm-hmm.
for sure, is our time. When I have my time, who do I put that into? Who am I
Yep.
going to put my time to? Because money's not finite.
Right. I think the way I think about it is like, I don't know if there's a blueprint to it. It is so important, but it's part of it is generosity, and maybe the other part, and there's probably other parts of the equation, is consistency. So like, if Seth Godin recommends something, I will blindly buy it because I trust him because he's consistent.
Yeah.
If Brene Brown interviews someone on her podcast, I trust, like, I'll go buy that book. Like if like there are certain people, because they've been so consistent and authentic and their message has evolved. It hasn't been 100% correct from the get, but neither has mine. But I think people could see, like, I'm hungry to grow. If we're wrong, we'll admit it, but we're constantly evolving and we're going to be consistent and we're going to never hold anything back. That's building trust. Not, I've been 100% right in everything we've shared since day one. It's like, nope, that's not how we get trust. So trust isn't even like, it's not even a quality thing. It's just consistent, authentic, like sharing is building trust. So I don't know.
True. Did you may have seen on social media somewhere the other day, it was a fan of Brene Brown and Glennon Doyle had posted a tweet that was like, who's better? And they both replied to the tweet being like, this is never going to be something that would fly with us. Why would you think this is the kind of interaction that, like, if you're a true fan of either of us, because it said in it, it was like, who do you like? I'm a huge fan of both these people, but who do you think is honestly better? I like Brene more because of this, blah, 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 blah. And they both kick back at it with just like,
I love it.
Oh, like, what are you trying to do here? Like, have you actually read our stuff?
Right. I think something that I like with what you're doing, and something, this is kind of like I've never really thought too much about it, but I think it's smart for people listening. And I don't even know a good word for it other than like just being open to learning from different industries. It's like, I think honestly, especially now that I'm doing a lot of like corporate workshops and high level sports stuff, my advantage is I follow Glennon and I follow Brene, and like, they have nothing to do with sports. They don't think about sports, but their lessons are valuable. And like understanding that science and then bringing it to the sports world, it's like huge. And so learning from the business world, learning from education, learning from like people like Glennon and Brene, and just being open-minded to that, and then gathering that material, connecting the dots, finding the science underneath it. Like there's a lot of value in that versus, well, I operate in the sports world, so I'm only going to learn from people in the sports world. It's like, I think that's kind of limiting. Yeah.
And I building on that exact thought, we've got like an NBA strength coach who's been on the show, and an MLB mental performance coach, Justin Sua, and we've Dr. Kendra Coates, which I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to her from Mindset Works yet, but she killed it on here.
Mhm.
And those are the like, and people are listening to them, and I'm not trying to boost the show. That's not the purpose of this statement. But as I put those out, I was like, wow, these are going to be big. People are going to like these.
Yeah.
My most consumed, watched and listened to show so far is the shortest one, and it's with a girl here in Canada. Her name's Amanda Burt. She was hit by a truck when she was 16. She's got a permanent traumatic brain injury, and she articulates some stuff in that comes from no book and comes from no video, anything like that. And it's like as real and raw as I think as authentic as it gets. And it's like that one's exploding. Like the other ones are doing well, but that one's exploding, and it's exactly what you're talking about. And the lessons that come from that, like, you can take those to any business, any team, any classroom, and teach them, and there's value there. And it's literally, I'm not trying to disparage her by any means, but it's quote unquote just a girl in her kitchen talking about what happened to her.
So cool. I think that this is something that Alex and I talk a lot about with our podcast. One is learning from different buckets, and two, because it's easy sometimes to chase like, oh, I'm just going to get a big name person, because if I get a big name person, everyone will listen. But it's like, there's usually like someone underneath that, a couple layers deep, who is like in the trenches on that particular topic.
Totally.
That's an even better guest if it's about quality. And sometimes you got to get a big name to grow it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes a big name person is actually the best person you could find. But we kind of like that, like under the radar guest who's just like in the trenches, like whether it's in the science or living it. It's like I love learning from people like that.
Yeah, and it was actually Dr. Coates who asked me. She's like, well, when did you first think about doing something like this? And I never even really thought about it, but I was like, I think I was in high school. Like podcasts weren't a thing yet, but and I don't even know if YouTube was. I'm sure it was around, but but I was really like, I guess I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, but it's not, there is no true north in terms of who I want to talk to and learn from. It's like, it's like, I might read a book. I might see somebody on TV. I might see somebody posting on social media. I'm like, well, that'd be cool to talk to them. Because worst case scenario, I'm going to get a bunch of notes in this book.
It's great.
And I'm going to take that with me. And so I find that when people approach learning period, that mistake is often made where it's like, I guess it's the other side to the same coin of trust and that kind of thing, where it's like the only stuff I'll trust or the only stuff I'll consume is like the A-level, A-list content.
Right.
But there is those other layers, and there is a way to go a little bit deeper, and there's valuable content there. The people who are going to have that bestseller in 2 years, or they're going to be a part of somebody else's bestseller this year or something like that.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, that's something I think about a lot, and that's something that we try to do. So like we did an episode on habits, and like James Clear is he sold 1 million copies of Atomic Habits, but we found Wendy Wood, who's the person that's been doing the research for 40 years. So she's literally the world's expert. Now, I don't even think we could have got James Clear. Like he's on another level of all this, and he's awesome. I'm not like hating on him, but I think it's awesome that we found Wendy Wood. And so I like that, the under the radar. It's good.
Oh yeah. And I think we all do this too. We take those big swings. Like I'm literally trying to get like John Krasinski. Like John Krasinski, come on my show. Like I want to talk to you about the fact that you went on a show like The Office, and then you went all the way to producing and directing a movie, or multiple movies. And it's like not like whatever the odds are, but they're not zero.
Yeah, dude, you don't even know how many I've been striking out a lot lately on guests. Like you've seen, I tweet at Brene like once a month.
Yeah. And
it's always super desperate. Like, I love you. Like, please talk to me. So like, I think you got to take those swings, and as long as it's coming from a good place, it's great. Like a lot, that's a common question people ask me a lot. Like, oh, how'd you get this person? It's like, I asked them. Like,
yeah.
Like we got 2 like huge guests for coming up, and it's just like, Well, I just like emailed one guy and the other I tweeted at her and they responded. There's no
Yep.
magic. It's just like, so it's just taking the swings and being willing to just be like you said, who knows what I don't even want to know what my batting average is on
Oh yeah.
this, but it's low. But I got enough that it's like content that's literally changed my life, and the message and the quality of our message that we could share with other people. And all it took was an email. It's like, I should probably send more of those.
Yeah, and there's two things that really pulls on for me. The first, and I don't know if this has happened to you too, but I've been contacted by a couple different people on the sales side who are like, "Hey, you enjoy rejection, but you also get some success. Let's talk about what that looks like." It's like literally just like, yeah, like how do you approach getting success when, especially when you're starting out, and it's
Yeah.
like you're essentially selling nothing.
Yep.
Like you're essentially selling like, I really care a lot about this, so hopefully you'll care just enough to maybe jump in here with me.
And I think that that's all it takes. Like, um, look, the bottom line is other people have way bigger followings than you and I.
Mhm.
And so like if someone comes on and we interview them, probably not going to sell 10,000 books for them. Like it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think if you are authentic when you reach out and have like a concrete thing that shows like, hey, like I really respect you. This isn't like some people reach out to me. It's like you could tell they've never even been to my website. They're just,
Yeah.
it's just like, get out of here. But like
Yeah.
if it's authentic, you care about their work, and it's a genuine ask, it's like sometimes that works.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it's living in the world of having people say no to you. And I think one of the things that we've always had in common, and you can correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, is that we don't really have an ego about it. Like it's not
Yeah.
like if somebody comes to me and says like, oh, you know, you only have this many followers on Instagram, or that, like, well, you know, this is like you only have this many views. It's like when I put my first video up, I thought maybe 10, right?
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, if like 10 people watch it, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like there's no like there's no like over, I don't know. I don't totally.
Yeah.
It's not just. I don't like misusing the word ego because
Right.
it's got too much of a negative connotation anyway. But
I agree.
but and
Well, it's
I
like,
think it's an attitude. It's an
yeah,
attitude where it's like, you're just a fish. You don't think you're a big fish. You don't think you're a small fish. You're just a fish.
yeah. And I think I've sort of been able to come to terms with it with just logic. So like we have a big following now, and so when I post new content, it gets pretty good traction. But I also remember for 2 years, I was writing a weekly newsletter that like 75 people read, and probably 65 of them were related to me. It's like, it's like,
My dad's on my email list too.
yeah. So, but like, what's the alternative, right? So it's like the only way, if you're going to go from 10 to 5,000 or whatever number,
Yeah.
is to keep doing it. So like if I'm discouraged by the 5 and don't like that, the alternative is to either stop or just keep going. And so obviously nothing's going to grow if you stop. So
Yeah.
to me, it was like a math problem. It's like, well, like I'm lucky to have some time to do something like this. Let's just like keep it rolling. And then I also think sometimes we not overcorrect, but we get so ingrained in just like, I just need to be consistent, need to be consistent, need to be consistent, and it'll happen. It's like partially true, but also there should be some experimentation with the quality of the content or the type of content. So like I'm writing a newsletter and it's slowly growing. For me, a turning point was like, wow, I'm writing like an article that takes 45 minutes to read that I don't even read at the end because it's so long. It's like, for me, my experiment was like, what if I translated that into a 12-minute video?
Yeah.
And like that was a turning point for my company. Then the traction picked up. So like part of the learning process, it's not as simple of an equation of just like time and effort and just more time, more effort, more time, more effort. It's like there's also adjustments to strategy that should be happening. And that goes for any learning journey. So when we say consistency, yes, but there should also be consistency in the experimentation and the trying out of different strategies on that journey as well.
Yeah, and I think one way back when I was still doing like excavation and labor work just to make money when I was in school, and there's a saying that was always super consistent, which is work smart, not hard. And then you've got the other side of that coin where it's just like just bullheaded, put your head down and just grind away and slog away. It's like it's work hard and smart, or work smart and hard. Like it's a balance.
Right. So it's like I want to create the consistency of showing up and then the experimentation while I'm showing up to thrash around and try new stuff. And like that's kind of the balance we're looking for. You could also use that same logic for anyone on any learning journey.
Totally, 100%. When you talked about kind of the aspect of getting new guests and communicating with people and really just learning and success as a concept, the attitude of approaching that way can sometimes be construed incorrectly. Have you ever experienced that in your journey where it's like, do you ever get mislabeled? Because people who know you're not an arrogant guy, or people who know you're not overconfident by any means. But I do know from personal experience and from talking to other people who've had a relative level of success in whatever field, that sometimes that passion and that consistency, that focus can be misconstrued as arrogance or some kind of negative connotation. Has that happened to you? And if not, then like
I think there's maybe other ways that it happens. So like I think the topic of learning is so broad and there's like pieces to this puzzle and some could be misinterpreted. And I think maybe the biggest one for us is a big pillar of our content is helping people understand you kind of have to like expand out of your comfort zone a little bit to grow. And so we talk a lot about comfort zones and we call it like the jungle tiger, the zoo tiger.
Yeah.
And then some
Which,
people,
just to clarify, is 100% yours.
Yes,
Okay.
I have the receipts on that.
I just want to make sure, because I have some subscribers that might have a little bit of confusion around the fact that you created Zoo and Jungle Tigers.
I have the receipts. I live streamed it on Facebook from a basketball camp. So like you could see the OG, you literally made it up on a whiteboard and it was in like 2013. So
sorry to interrupt, but I felt like that was worth clarifying.
No, I appreciate it. So like, okay, so this concept of like jungle tigering is expanding out of the comfort zone. Zoo tigering is staying in the comfort zone. Some people took that and made it about aggression, being bold, which is like you've seen the way I teach and the way we talk. That's the opposite. Like, in fact, the way I talk is just like, yo, this stuff is hard and I struggle with it and I fail at it, but I know it's good. It's kind of the Brene. She's like, some of the stuff I learned, I hate. Like, I hate that this is true, but I got to do it. And I like kind of suck at it. Yeah. And like, I love that. That's authentic. Not, I'm dope. I never make mistakes. I'm the man. You should listen to me. But sometimes the jungle tiger message is like wrapped up in a package of bold, aggressive, attack everything. It's like, no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying it's the small choices every day to do the thing that will help me grow versus the thing that just feels good in the moment. That's it. So like when we're encouraging people to jungle tiger, it's like, yeah, we're encouraging you to ask more questions or send that email or apply for that course or job. Like that's jungle tigering, not some stunt that's fake vulnerable or fake scary that's designed to get Instagram likes. That's not what jungle tigering is. But some people explain it like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to hear about how people sometimes misconstrue the message or twist the even twist the person delivering the message, like you or I or whatever. Yeah. And it came to me when I had one of the female guests I had on the show, and just kind of organically through our chat, I asked the question because she was we were going down this path of, does her drive and her perseverance and her focus and the way that she delivers her messages as an athlete, her name's Becca Graham. She's the 4-time spike ball national champion.
Oh.
Yeah. there have been 5 championships and she's won 4 of them.
Dang.
Uh, but I had her on, and I just asked her, I was like, do you ever get misconstrued or labeled as, because of where your focus is, your priorities, that kind of stuff lie? And as we go down that path, it's like, yeah, like I've been called names, I've been
Mm-hmm.
completely misinterpreted. And so I've asked that question a few times to female guests,
Mm-hmm.
and it happens, in my experience, a lot more, especially as a women's basketball coach, to women
For
than
sure.
men. Where if I'm a driven person, or if I'm focused, or whatever arena we kind of want to think about,
Yep.
people use words like that.
Yeah, it sucks. And like I even remember seeing some stuff on like when I speak, I like make fun of myself a lot, and I share hardly any wins in my message almost all the times that I mess stuff up. And as a male, that will land with an audience in a different way than if a female was doing that, which sucks. Like it's stuff I didn't even realize. It's like, so when I'm telling, sometimes people ask me like how I craft our message, I'm like, yeah, super vulnerable. I talk about how I mess this stuff up. It's like, yeah, that would work if you're a white male. Like that's
Yeah,
terrible. And
it's
so
true.
it's like kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But I would, yeah. So that it's really cool that you're asking that question to people, because it does shine a light on like it's different experiences for sure.
Well, and I think you went to that next layer too, where it's like recognizing how fortunate we can be, where it's like, we live in a place and have the means where we can take leaps and mess it up,
Yeah.
and we're not going to lose our home, or we're not going to, or maybe we will, but even then we're going to be okay, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And when we deliver certain messages, that message is perceived with a lot higher blank.
Yep.
You put a bunch of different stuff there, purely because of the demographic we happen to, like, we're
Yeah.
currently right now in the 7 billion whatever people are in the world, this is probably the whitest male podcast occurring at this moment. It's you and me talking.
I know.
and I think it's important, like, we need to be aware of that.
100%.
And we
And
need to be aware of it, that it's an advantage whether we've asked for it or not, but it's
yes.
also something that um that we need to try and incorporate other perspectives in,
Yeah.
and those people that are aware of the need for more than just Trevor from Wyoming and
Right.
Ken from Canada.
Right.
We
I
need to
think
expand.
I think you're right. And that sometimes people have a hard time digesting this, and two things can be true at the same time. I know for a fact that where I'm at right now is different because I'm like a straight white dude than if I wasn't a straight white dude. Like it's just no brainer. It would not be where I'm at now. And at the same time, I've worked like crazy for 7 years, and both of those things are true. Like,
and
so
they
like,
can be true.
yes. And so when we're helping people understand that we have certain advantages, I'm not diminishing the work and grind that you went through. It's like, no, that was a piece of it too, but they're both true. Like we have to, like, that's I think an important way to look.
And that morphs and changes depending on the arena that you're in, right? There are going to be different advantages and different disadvantages to every arena, and it's not about, nobody can say they fully understand that whole picture, nobody.
Mm-mm.
But it is being aware of that fact, and it did just kind of it kind of occurred to me the other day about the fact that, well, actually when I was in a different interview, where it's just kind of like, there are some situations, there are many situations, I'll hazard to say, that will never be recreated as easy or as hard again in human history. It's always going to be its own individual success factors and failure factors.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is like, it makes it really, it's empathy. Like that's really what we're talking about, is being empathy, and I guess curiosity would really fit in there too. And that's where it's like, when you see somebody who has success, and I'll use the example because in some of the athletes I've had on, I ask the question, or the coaches who work with athletes, I ask the question of, what does your days look like where you don't want to do it? Or what do your days with athletes where they don't want to come in? So the strength coach in the NBA, do all your athletes want to work out every day? Well,
Nope.
obviously no. But in the current world, especially the social media world, it's like, as far as a young kid coming up can tell, it's like, it really looks like that guy wants to be in the gym grinding every day, like,
Yeah.
and I don't want to be, so I guess I'm never going to
Yeah.
reach that level. It's like, no, you don't see that
Yeah.
he's got his struggles, or that
Yep.
she's got her struggles too. And I think
Hmm.
that's a piece that's getting missed more and more and more, is that
Yep.
yes, we need to be very aware and see people who we can tell are struggling.
Hmm.
But for our own sake, we also need to be very aware and see people who we can't tell are struggling,
Yeah.
and allow. It's kind of acceptance for myself, where it's like, yeah, I don't see him struggling,
Yeah.
but that he definitely has his struggles, and
For
I
sure.
have mine too, and neither of those things are impossible to overcome.
Agreed.
That was a bit of
100%.
I monologued a bit
No,
there.
that was good. All of this is like not the typical interview topics that I've got lately. This is fun for me. This
Well,
is good.
it's kind of what happens when you literally come in with a blank sheet of paper. You're just like, I'm going to ask him about his family, and then we're going to riff a bit for about an hour or so.
It's
So
perfect. I love it. Um, yeah, man, I think it's like important to acknowledge stuff like this. And I also think it's important, like, to put ourselves into positions where we get to learn from people with different perspectives, whatever those perspectives may be. And part of that is like on us. It's just like asking questions and reaching out to people from different industries, different places, different perspectives, and just getting those experiences of just like, um, I don't know, like maybe the person that's taught me the most in the last 3 years, I met him in a prison in Kansas. It's like, damn. And I was lucky enough to get to do that workshop to like run into him and connect with him. But like he's taught me more than some of these like famous teachers, famous researchers. It's like I think we should be doing it more. And it's kind of on us to get like send those asks or reach out or read or just kind of open our eyes to different ideas from different people.
yeah, I'm glad you circled back to that, because I have it written down here. Like, what, I don't think we can completely conceptualize it in this. I don't think that's fair to the situation. But what are some of the things that you took away from the experience, talking in the prison?
The first one
Yeah.
was I had no idea how to go and deliver the message, especially when the first 20 minutes of the message is about zoos and jungles. It's like, woo, you could argue with like living in a cell is a lot like a zoo.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, damn, because that's not what it's about at all. And someone messaged me on Instagram today and she was like, well, how could we jungle tiger? We're all stuck at home. It's like jungle tigering isn't a place. Comfort zone is like a situation. Like we can find ways to expand out of our comfort zone no matter where we're at. And so I did a lot of work before I went in for that first workshop. And basically my strategy going in for the first like couple minutes, I straight up said, I have no idea what it's like to be here. I have no idea what it's like to be you. And I have no idea the challenges you face, the pressures you feel. Um, I've been learning some stuff, but I see this as more of a conversation where I just want to share an idea and then we'll discuss together about how you might use that here. And I think when said properly, that approach, it like everyone just chilled out and it was one of the coolest 3 hours of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that came from, but it was like really genuine of like, I don't know shit, but like, let's work on this together. And it was awesome. But then I realized like after that workshop, it went so well, like the by far most hungry group of learners I've ever presented to, like questions out of the gate, like, oh, what about this, what about this? It was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I literally went out to my car and cried for 20 minutes because it was just like one of those things of like I felt bad for how scared I was going in. I felt bad for like the labels and the judging I was doing going in, and I was just like blown away at those guys. So it was just like a huge eye opener. But then I realized like this approach of going in and taking all the guards down and admitting that you don't know everything, and helping them understand that you don't know their life and you're not there to tell them what to do. I've used that at every workshop since then, even on the workshops at freaking the World Bank, like, because it's true. It's like, hey, guess what? I have no idea what it's like to work here and be in your shoes. Like, I'm not here to change your tactics. I'm not here to tell you how to do your job better. We're here to have conversation about foundational learning principles, and we're going to dig into them together. And like, it's made every workshop since then 100 times better. So that would be the biggest lesson.
That's really cool. And a friend of mine, his name's Jason McDonald. He used to fight in the UFC, and now he's a high level trainer for CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And he went and did some training in a prison as well. And one of the things he said to me after he got back from that, besides many of the positive things and so much learning that he got from it, is that there's some of the best learners he's ever worked with.
Yep.
Was that your experience?
100%. Like, absolutely. I've done 3, and it's been true for each one. Like, asking questions during, just super engaged, hungry to grow. And like, I don't know. There have been some of the most amazing moments in my teaching career, and it's been going for 6 or 7 years, have happened in prisons. And I don't know, man. Like, I think maybe one, it's a short story, but it's probably worth telling. It was like a 3-hour workshop with a group of like 200 guys, and it went well. And afterwards I was packing up, and like 8 guys came up and they're like, hey, do you have like another hour? We're in charge of like organizing these programs. We just want to like bounce some ideas off you. So we go into the separate room. There's these 8 guys. Ends up they built a library. And so they were asking me like, well, what books do we need to get for the library? They're holding a Shark Tank competition. They're like, could you help us judge and like help give feedback on the business models? They were setting up courses for the guys to go through where they could be trained to be an electrician. So they have like a job when they get, so like so many badass programs that they're setting up. And so we ended up spending like all afternoon together, just going through all their plans and all their ideas. The end, when I was leaving, one of the guards is like, do you know about those 8 guys? And I was like, well, like, no, what do you mean? Ends up those 8 are in there for life and never getting out. And they're setting up these programs for the other guys that have a chance to get out. And it was just like, damn, I don't even know if I could do that. You know, like yeah. It's one thing to be hungry to grow and share and do our podcast when I know like it's putting food on the table. Like, I'm getting direct benefit from this. But to be in a situation where it's like, they're not getting much from it. Like, it's not going to help them get released or get a job when they get released, but they're doing it for the guys that might. It's like, whew. Like, I think about those guys all the time. It's pretty great.
And this is why I like my own podcast is because as you're saying that, all I'm thinking about is I've been trying to do this like deeper dive into concept of freedom and creating space and that kind of stuff for people. And it's like freedom in the literal sense of the word is gone in what you're talking about. And it will never come back.
Yeah.
For those guys. But somebody's empowering them and giving them the freedom to create still.
Yeah.
And because of that ability, that freedom that they have to do so, they're finding passion, they're finding meaning.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking anything away from those guys because they're still doing the work, and they're still the ones creating and driving the bus all the time. But it's cool to me in that sense, because I agree with you. Like I where I sit right now, I can't see myself being able to do that.
Yeah.
In their shoes, and nor does it even really do justice to try. But it's really interesting to see the idea of, for whatever reason, they're getting enough freedom, enough space to create and to be curious and that kind of thing. And because of that, there's meaning. There's not just meaning for them. there's a
Yeah.
massive amount of meaning that's spreading and a massive amount of teaching.
That environment, there's no question that, and it's coming from all angles. One, it's the 8 guys pushing this. 2, it's the people in charge allowing them to push it. And then it's the 200 guys understanding the value of it. So everyone's working together and making it like so much better than it could be. And let's just be real. I'm sure it doesn't make every day easy and fun. I can't even fathom what it would be like to be in their shoes, but it's just a model of finding growth and meaning and purpose in an environment that's not necessarily aligned with that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a pretty badass way to put it too.
Thanks. No, this is, I love this podcast because I've never really told anyone that, because it like doesn't come up in a conversation. Like, I don't know where that fits. It doesn't fit in our message, but organically here, just through talking about stuff like this, like that's an experience that I've had that's like, I don't even know how to put that into a package of this is what it taught me. It's more of a feeling of just like, damn, like people are so great. Yeah.
Well, and that's, if only there was a category for that stuff.
Yeah.
Because that is more and more, like I said about Amanda earlier, where it's like that entire episode is just somebody talking about learning to walk, talk, eat, move, interact with the world again after being in a horrible car accident, and even like the literal label of like, well, what YouTube playlist do I put this episode under? Do I put it under mindset? Do I put it under coaching? Do I put it under team? Like, I was like, this is it. It really, like, multiple times in that she got me tearing up in the episode. And it's just like, it is one of those ones where it's like, what do we call the lessons where it doesn't fit in a category, but you're just kind of like, damn, that changed me. Something about that changed.
I know it's tough, and maybe those are the best lessons, and sometimes it's good if you can't like put it into a box. It's like, here's the story, here's the lesson. It's like, here's the story, and I think about it every day, and it helps me a ton. It's like,
and I think
good.
I'm with you 100% on that, where it's just like, there's how many things do you think about where it's like it almost gets ruined once somebody does too much of an autopsy on it. Like,
it's like our industry is the worst. It's like, here's what we're gonna do: 1, oversimplify it; 2, we're gonna make it rhyme; and then 3, we're gonna it's like, if it doesn't rhyme and if it's not an acronym, get it out of here.
No, it's true. And it's like, and
it's so annoying.
And with all due respect, because there's a bunch of people where it's like, their acronyms and their rhymes, I use them every day.
No, there's fine, but it's like when it's forced, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, and whereas it's just like, actually, if you had just told me that story without making it into a jingle, I would be really impacted by that.
Right. And I also think the value of the story too isn't to like one translation of the story is, if they can do that there, you have no excuse. You should be learning wherever you are. It's like, that's not the point of the story. Like, so it's like, you have to be careful, because it's easy to take a message like that or a story like that and turn it into this, like, it's like, you have it so much better than them, and why would you ever not be locked in or growing or trying? It's like, I don't know. All that stuff annoys me a little bit.
Yeah, and it's Justin Su'a said it really well, and this was a concept that I never heard before, where it's like there's always a shadow to on the learning side, and there's that other side to it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a negative, but there's a shadow. And that's something else I've kind of been reading up on since talking to him, was the idea of shadows in learning, and how, like, curiosity is something that I think we can both agree is super important, and probably one of the key things to making sure that you stay on a path of learning. But there is such thing as tunnel vision when you get too curious too often all the time, and that shadow it's just as one example.
And even just growth itself. It's like, well, what is the fuel source? Is it because I feel inadequate and I need to
Mm,
grow? Is it because growth energizes me? It's like probably a little bit of both, and like you could slide down either way. It's like
yeah.
all of this gets super messy. It's not just cut and dry and fun and easy at all. It's like, but I don't know. I thought Justin was awesome. Him and I talked like 2 days after the thing. It was great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
I've been really,
he mentioned, oh no, I think I mentioned you. And
yeah.
he's like, yeah, like I'm pretty sure I'm talking to him today or tomorrow or something. Like
Yeah. It was weird timing.
I was like, oh yeah, I'll tell him I say hi. And so yeah, no, the thing I really like about Justin too is that he's just like he's such a sharer and a teacher.
Yep.
Like he's so again, like he was super accessible to me, and he doesn't know me from anybody, so
It's awesome.
that was really cool.
Mhm.
Kind of to wrap things up here, because like I don't even know why I try to sell these as being an hour long to anybody, myself, my guests,
Yeah.
anybody who asks me about them, because very rarely am I able to keep them to an hour, because both people just get so excited that it's just kind of
Yeah.
like,
It's great.
yeah, okay.
This is, dude, it's like we need human connection right now. Just keep it going.
Yeah. Is there a way to have a man hug on Zoom?
There needs to be a button.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Questions I ask everybody, and
Okay.
there's going to be, I'm going to make sure that the full kind of description of where people can find you is in the episode as well. But
Cool.
just for consistency, where can people follow you and find you and learn more about your stuff?
Go to thelearnerlab.com. Everything is there, all free. And my phone number and email are there as well, so you could reach out that way.
Which is why you are also at least as bad at getting back to text as I am, which makes me feel really secure in my text ability, because there's more of us.
I'm garbage.
Oh yeah,
I'm garbage. Sorry.
I feel like that was calling yourself. You don't hear a lot of people call themselves garbage. That's a great way to wrap up a podcast. It's just
Yeah,
like, dude, I'm garbage.
Dude, that's your Instagram teaser. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm just garbage. It's like, what did they just talk about?
Oh,
Yeah.
I need to know.
It got real.
Are you I don't ask this to everybody, but I try to ask it to as many people as possible when I remember. But again, if I had a script, that would probably help.
Mm-hmm.
What are you reading, or what are you into right now?
Oh, there's 2 books that I don't have them.
That crotch shot is going to sell really well on YouTube.
Thanks. Also a clip. Keep it. I'm waist deep right now in this idea of like understanding emotions and understanding like the tough emotions doesn't mean feeling tough emotions doesn't mean I'm weak, and that this idea of not feeling, which we're kind of conditioned to and taught to do, is absolutely wrong and can screw up the learning process. And so now it's the zig again. We're trying to like understand the research of like accepting and feeling tough emotions and changing our perceptions of those. And so I'm reading a couple good books. One is called Permission to Feel. The other is Emotional Agility. And I actually have an interview with both of the authors next week. So
That's a great plug. You that flowed perfect.
Teased it up.
Yeah, you're it speaking of plugs, it brings up, I haven't put any of this out yet, but the thing that I've kind of been working on is I'm calling it mental self-defense for learning.
Nice.
And it came up, and honestly the reason why I haven't put it out yet is because Tony Blauer, who's a self-defense guru for physical self-defense,
Mm-hmm.
Was on the show, and I sent it to him and you and I have talked about imposter syndrome a bunch. I sent it to him. I was like, hey, is this derivative of your stuff? Like, am I going too far here? Because it's like, it's not his stuff, but I definitely reference his stuff like 60 times. But it's literally just like the tools to respond to the physiological effects of different emotions.
Nice.
In the moment, largely based around kind of getting performance. So recognizing and you and I have talked about the physiological side a bunch. I think that was one of the first things that we ever really talked about. But
that's when I first really liked you. I was like, yeah, like physiology.
Well, wait a minute, that was like a year after we met.
Oh shit, never mind.
But no, it's like physiological symptom or physiological reaction comes up. It's going to give rise to a feeling, which is going to connect to an emotion. You choose the response to that emotion. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to be the response that you are most comfortable with.
Right.
And just kind of the loops and that kind of thing around different stimuli.
Oh, that'll be killer.
That's super interesting. Give me those titles again, those books.
Emotional Agility and Permission to Feel. So
I've read Permission to Feel.
It's a Mark Brackett. He was just
bad listening by a host too. The fact that I had to get you to repeat that.
No, you're good. Mark Brackett. He was on Brene Brown's podcast yesterday, and I'm reading the book, and I talked to him on Friday, so I can't wait. Yeah.
That's good stuff in the one. I'll have to check out Emotional Agility, but
I haven't started yet, but it looks cool.
Cool. And same question I ask everybody, phrase or two that would be your best advice or core concept on learning.
We can all get better at pretty much anything. And then ... much better than you know. And I will fight people. Like, I believe that at my core. Yeah. And I've talked to enough neuroscientists to like go to bat on that statement. And I think there's so much power underneath that. Doesn't mean we have to learn everything. Doesn't mean we're going to master everything, but we can get better than we know at mostly anything, which is like, you could argue like the core of any learning journey is that's a great fuel source.
Cool. That's awesome. one of those times where I'm just like listening to the person, I'm like, you can keep going. Like, we don't need to. Well, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you being on here, and
yeah.
It's awesome to be a train on a parallel track to you on this
it's good,
super random thing. And I'm excited to keep doing stuff in the future. So
keep it going, man. This is great.
Cool. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Later. Thank you.
Make sure you subscribe wherever you get podcasts or to this YouTube channel to hear our weekly episodes.